in school, the people who are bullying might not think it's bullying because they think it's a joke, but I see that it hurts people and they get upset, and yeah.
So Carter said that in his experience, he has seen it in school. Now, he also says they may not recognize that, you know, he said bullying. They may not recognize that it's bullying, but he's seen the effects of how it hurts people. So in his opinion, it's a problem. Let's go.
So I feel like it is like a really big problem in school because like I feel like it's more on like the topics and like what they're bullying on, because I feel like it's like a lot of like race and like sexuality and what you look like, and I feel like it shouldn't be big topics and it shouldn't be like the topic that you're talking about, but it is. And I feel like that's the problem with like bullying. Like, why are you bullying? I feel like bullies should stop and ask themselves that, because it could also be like because what they have going on at home, so they feel like they need to be mean to someone, but also they should just talk to someone like how they feel.
So Cadence says that yes, it's a problem about the topics, right? There are some topics that are out here. I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. There's some topics that are mainstream society right now, and it's the topics that people are focused on, and we really shouldn't be focused on in the way that they are. And she also dug a little bit deeper and said, you know, I really think it has to also do with what's going on at home, right? What's going on at home, and they're bringing that here, and it's kind of being manifested out here amongst us. So she went deep. Nice job. Yes.
I think that like sometimes people like get bullied because like, so like let's say you think your hair is too long and so you want to go and cut it off, but then you cut it and then there's going to be people that are like, oh, have you seen her hair or like his hair, and you're like, that's not like, I don't like that, and so then they're gonna go and they like make fun of you and they're like, oh my god, have you seen whoever's hair, like that's not cute, and then it's like, or you're like, oh, I like to do whatever, and they're like, oh my god, they're so basic, like they like to do this, or like it's just like, if you like there will be things that like some people like, and then there's gonna be things that other people like don't like, and then it's just like sometimes you can just be like bullied off of like what you like. So like if you like to wear jeans and someone will be likes to wear leggings instead of jeans, they'll be like, oh my god, I can't believe you like jeans, like how do you wear those?
Abby. Okay, thank you, Abby. So, Abby is highlighting what we might call some real basic stuff, right? Down to the jeans, down to the tights. She's like, okay, you like tights, I don't like tights, but you're picking on me because I don't like tights. Or I like jeans, right? Or I cut my hair. You got long hair, I got short hair. You got an opinion about that, why? Right? So she says, nah, that's a serious problem because it makes people not feel good. I'm gonna take one more. Yes, sir.
I think there's something seriously wrong with it because, oh no.
Change your mind. What happened? What happened?
Some people mask being mean with like, I'm just kidding, or if someone like can insult you, but then they mask it with just joking or just kidding, but they don't understand how it can still hurt. But you also gotta think when people are being mean, you don't want to be mean back, but you also gotta think about their invisible backpack, about what's going on with their life. Something could be wrong with their parents, or something could be wrong with their daily lives, like that.
Yes, people are bullying, and also you don't know what someone is dealing with at home. That is so powerful. You never know when we choose to call somebody out or say something that doesn't really have anything to do with me, but I'm choosing to pick something out about another individual, you never know what is happening to them at home that is already hurtful. So now you've just added to it. Do we want to add to people's pain? Do we want to add to people's pain? No, we shouldn't want to add to people's pain. All right, my unsure's over here, and they say, I don't know if there's a serious problem of meeting people in school.
I don't know if there's a serious problem in schools because I feel like middle school is a really gray area in most people's life, and your family's telling you one thing, and your mom and dad are telling you one thing, your friends are telling you another thing, and people might be like, oh, don't take this to heart, but you have so many people telling you so many different things at once, you don't know what to take and what not to take, and what you can take in, which is hurtful, it hurts you even more because you just don't know what side to pick, and people might be like, oh my God, oh, this is ugly, oh, your shoes are so old, or you're fat, you're so dumb. But really, your parents might be like, oh, but you're so smart, you're so beautiful, and so this. But how are you really supposed to know if you have different people telling you different things?
Jasmine says that middle school is it's that in-between phase where you have a lot of people, parents, telling you, you're great, but then you may come to school and you may be in a different environment, and the people in school are like, you're, some of the things she said, you're fat, you're ugly, you're this, your shoes are dirty or old or whatever, right? And so you start to not know, you get confused, and you don't know how you're supposed to feel, right? And it's just a really confusing phase. I'm gonna take two more.
So I personally have never experienced something like that, but you never know, someone could, so that's why I chose unsure. It could go either way, but I personally don't know.
So Gio personally experienced it, but you just never know what someone's going through. All right, so you got to hear different opinions and thoughts, right? This group said, nah, this is actually happening here in school. This group said, well, I don't really know that it's happening to a serious problem level, and also it kind of has to do with how you let it filter in. Like, how are you letting that filter in and impact you, right? So I don't kind of think it's a serious problem. And then my middle group just kind of said, it's just a confusing phase. There's a lot of information going on out here. And so how do we start to navigate this space? So I want to say thank you to you leaders for coming up here. And so we're going to have this conversation. If you've heard these names. So this is going to be interesting for me too. Well, let me take it a step back. In 2020, yeah, they're like, oh boy. In 2020, some really serious things happened. One, this invincible thing shut us all down. We were shut down. Everybody was locked in. We couldn't go nowhere, right? Grocery store. That was it. Oh, Dunkin' Donuts. I go to Dunkin' Donuts. They get Dunkin' Donuts. So Dunkin' Donuts, get my coffee. But beyond that, we weren't really able to go. We weren't able to travel. We weren't able to go nowhere. We just locked in, right? And this thing was just, it shut the world down. Right? But not only did that happen, something else happened. It was what some would call the reemergence of, and it's going to be big words, the civil rights movement. The civil rights movement is a movement that people who were disenfranchised, discriminated against, were fighting for rights, specifically black people. So those two things, two big, huge things, were happening at the same time. Does anybody know the name Emmett Till? Anybody ever heard that name? Okay, one or two of you, three of you, okay. Anybody ever heard the name Trayvon Martin? Anybody? Okay. Anybody ever heard the name Breonna Taylor? Okay, two more. Anybody heard the name Ahmaud Arbery? Okay. Anybody heard the name George Floyd? So those names that I said before, George, they all died. They all died. And they were black, right? Emmett Till specifically was 14 years old. Emmett Till, 14 years old. Just take you back a little bit so I can bring you forward. So I'm gonna tell you a story. I like to tell stories. Emmett Till, 14 years old. He was from the north. He went to visit some family members in the south. And in this time, there was a lot of tension between black people and white people. So he went to go visit some family members in Mississippi. And he said hello, or they said he said hello, which in the north was okay, but in the south it wasn't okay. So he made, you know, put quotation marks, he made the mistake and simply said hello to a white woman. And it ended up costing him his life, 14 years old. We fast forward that a little bit. We fast forward that to a young man by the name of Trayvon Martin. He had Skittles and a Mountain Dew. And he was walking home. And he happened to be walking in an area that was in between his house, but an area that he traditionally didn't really go into. He encountered a gentleman who didn't think that he should be there. Trayvon was killed, 15 years old. Fast forward it to the story that you know, George Floyd. George Floyd, you've probably heard a bunch of different things, and to my friend, I don't know where she is right now, talking about confusing a lot of different information about him. But here's what's important, I think, for you to know. Anytime we are taught that people don't have value and that they don't matter, that their lives are less than mine or yours, we are likely to do anything to them. Anytime we think of any group, any topic that has to around people, when you take someone's humanness, their person, and you don't think that that matters, you can do anything you want. You feel justified to do anything you want. So in this case, it was okay for somebody to kneel for 9 minutes and 15 seconds on someone's neck and think that that person could endure that and survive. Okay? But that has to do with the roots of hate, the deep roots of hate. And hate and the things around hate start with when I see somebody and I look at you and I don't like your hair or how you got your hair done, and I tear that down. It also starts with I look at you and I don't think you're the right size, and I tear that down, or I try. I try, thinking that it's not going to impact me on the inside. So I haven't thought about the humanness of the person that I'm speaking those words to, that they don't feel. And I haven't put myself in their shoes, that if it was me and someone said something to me, well, let me ask this question. Has anybody ever hurt your feelings? Raise your hand if your feelings have ever been hurt in life. The older you get, the more your feelings get hurt. So if you looked around the room, everybody, teachers included, raised their hands, that we can get our feelings hurt. That means we feel. So words have power. I remember what my teacher said when I was in 5th grade, 6th grade. I'm old enough to be some of y'all grandparents, and I can't believe I just said that. But it is true. Old enough to be some of y'all grandparents. But I remember what some of my teachers said to me when I was your age. I still remember the words that they used. So I'm gonna tell you a story, because I said I like to tell stories. So when I grew up in, I was born in Dorchester, and my parents are from the islands of Jamaica and Antigua. And so I'm first generation born here in America. There are 5 of us, have some siblings. So while we were living in Dorchester, our house burned down. And so my parents made the decision that we were gonna move to a community that just was nicer, I guess. So we moved to Milton. Anybody know what Milton is? Okay. It's down the street, down 24. So we moved to Milton. And when we moved to Milton, we were one of 5 black families to move into the town of Milton. We were one of the first 5 black families to move into Milton. And if you know anything about Milton, there's some really, really nice houses there, still. So, but my mom made this statement to all 5 of us. She said, specific to me, because I was actually, the word she would use was I got into things. When I was young, I got into things. And so she said to me, Lisa, do not go to anyone's house. You are not allowed to go over anyone's house. And I was like, what you talking about, Mom? Why can't I go to anybody's house? That's black. Can't go to anybody's house? What you mean? Well, that's what my mama said, so that's what I had to do. Couldn't go to anyone's house. So every time my friends were going over each other's houses, I had to stroll on home, go home. Lisa, you coming? No, I gotta go home. So I go home, they go to each other's houses. But this one day, my mom worked nights. And this one day, she didn't get the memo that there was a half day. So she slept during the day, and then when we would come from school, she'd be awake. But on a half day, she was gonna be asleep. So Lisa decided this was my opportunity to go to my friend's house. I had me a nice BMX bike with the pegs on it. It was all nice, right? Because I was a bike rider doing my thing. And so I'm going to my friend's house, and y'all don't know nothing about this, but we had Nintendo back then. Nintendo. Okay, Pac-Man, Donkey Kong. Those were my games. Those were my games. So we're going to my friend Jay's house, and all my friends were white. Jay was Jewish. I'm black. I didn't have a problem with it. We just rocked together, right? We just did our thing. Just lived together, right? So we're riding to Jay's house. Let me take 2 steps back. I was really good at track, as was mentioned. Always good at track. My 3 sports volleyball, basketball, and track. And during this time, one day, me and my mom were in the kitchen, and we were watching the Olympics. And my favorite all-time athlete is the woman by the name of Florence Griffith Joyner Walker. And she still holds the record in the 200, right? She's still the fastest woman. And I saw this woman on the TV. I was 8 years old. And I saw this woman on the TV, and I was like, Mom, I'm going to the Olympics one day. I'm gonna be like her. Because I was blowing all the dudes out at school. What? Fast, right? So, we had that conversation. So as we're going to Jay's house, I see this house. Captivates me. It's a beautiful house. Makes me get off my bike. And I walk all the way up to the grass. And I'm just looking at this house. I'm like, one day I'm gonna buy my mom a house like this. Man, this is nice. Buy this house for my mom. So I'm dreaming. I'm dreaming. I can't tell you how long it was when a car pulls up. It's a cop car. Now, back when I was going to school, we were taught, I was taught, police officers only showed up for 2 reasons. 1, if someone was in need of help, and 2, if someone was doing something wrong. That was the only reason why police showed up. So I could not figure out why this particular officer had pulled up, because neither one of those things was relevant. But I was still looking at this house, even though I could see the officer, and he got out his car, and he addressed the group. And I didn't go over to where he was, I stayed where I was. And he said, "What are you doing?" And before I could say anything, because I was also taught that when an adult spoke to you, you showed them respect, and you didn't speak back. That was ingrained in me. It still is, and I'm an adult, but it was still ingrained in me. Right? So this police officer asked, "What were we doing?" And my friends answered, they said, "Well, you know, we're going up the street, going to my house." Jay answered. So, by all assumptions, it's over. We nullified it, we told you what we were doing. But then, he goes, "What are you doing?" Oh, this adult just spoke to me. He asked me a question that I thought was answered. My mother told me not to disrespect anybody, so I answered. I repeated what was already said. I said, "Well, going with my friends." The next words that would come out of his mouth was, "You need to leave." We took that communally. We took that to mean all of us needed to move from our position where we were. So we all gathered our bikes to get on our bikes to go in the direction where Jay's house was. The officer's voice changed. His tone changed. And he said, "I said, you need to leave." And he looked directly at me, pointed at me. "You need to leave." I just got in trouble, but I didn't know why I got in trouble. Wasn't doing anything, I was looking at the house. I didn't know why I was in trouble, but I was in trouble. And my mother's words rang true. You don't talk back to adults. My friends rebutted for me. "Lisa's coming with us." He pointed the opposite direction of where I needed to go. I didn't get on my bike to leave. I picked my bike up and I started walking, humiliated, frustrated, upset, got in trouble, didn't know why. My friends also felt some kind of way. They were dejected also. They didn't feel good about it. So they went their way and I walked my way. I walked about 2 miles home. And now remember what I said in the beginning. What did my mother tell me not to do? Don't talk back to adults and where was I not supposed to go? I wasn't supposed to go to anybody's house. Now she was awake. And I knew it. So I'm crying. I'm doing a stank crying, okay? My feelings are hurt, and I know my mother is not gonna be happy. So I opened the door, and you can just imagine at your age what that would look like if you walked into your house and you were in tears, what your parents would do. So my mom, Lisa, what's wrong? She's trying to, figure it out, and I was that kid that got injured a lot. So it wasn't without reason that I could have been hurt too, because I was just mischievous. But, so she's kind of figuring out, trying to figure out if anything's wrong with me, and I'm still doing that, and she finally gets me to settle down a little bit. I tell her what happened. And that same chair that she was sitting in when we were watching the Olympics, at the time she was standing. That same chair, she kind of plopped down in it. It was like the ear left her legs. She was deflated. This is interesting in my mind. She was quiet. My mom was a quiet lady. She was quiet for a minute. This is interesting. Something's wrong. She didn't yell at me. I said, Mom, what's wrong? She said, Lisa, baby, I didn't want this for you. I didn't want this for you. I said, what? What do you mean? What are you talking about? She looked at me and she said, Lisa, you're black. Well, yes, Mom. First of all. But you're black and you can't go everywhere that your friends go. That didn't sound right to me. It didn't make any sense. Why? People don't feel you should be certain places. And in my inner, I was really upset. It changed how I viewed the world, how I viewed school, and my environment. This kid who was very outgoing, very spoken, would speak to anybody, became very withdrawn. I didn't go to school for 3 days. And when I would go back to school, just walk in and I would sit at my desk quietly by myself. Never spoke to my friends again. Never spoke to them again. To this day, never spoke to them. And we would go through our whole school system together, and I never spoke to them again. So that damaged that. One day a teacher came up to me, which is why I say, you remember words, and they have impact. Teacher came up to me, one of my favorites actually. I was sitting in the back, dejected, quiet. And she said, Lisa, what's wrong? Something's different about you. You're not your normal self. And I was sitting, she was standing, and I looked up at her and I said, just like this, did you know I was black? And the look on her face, she was like, yeah. And I said to her, she was great, I said to her, well, because I'm black, you don't like me. You don't think I could do anything. You don't think I'm worth anything. You don't think I should be here. She took some steps back away from my desk a little bit. She kind of backed up because of the energy I was saying it with. So when my friend talks about stuff going on at home and you never know about the invincible and what people are dealing with, She didn't know what I was dealing with. I never said no. And the words she said to me after that, I still remember. She said, "No, Lisa. No." She said, "You are great. I love having you in class. Every time you step into the room, there's this energy about you. You're gonna do great things." No, Lisa. She affirmed what she saw. She didn't affirm what was said to me, that I didn't belong. When we talk about belonging, when we talk about, so I'm the DEI person at Northeastern, right? Diversity, equity, inclusion. Belonging. People want to belong. Nobody wants to be anywhere where people don't think they deserve to be there, or they shouldn't be there, or I'm better than you. That's not how we move, right? So when we talk about hate, or me, or bullying, the roots of it are grounded in the fact that we think we're better than somebody else, and we're actually not. Everybody raised their hand saying that they've been hurt. Everybody will experience, we go through many of the same experience regardless of color, race, gender, religious beliefs. We still go through many of the same experiences. But this is what I want to ask you, and you answer this for yourself. Who are you? Who are you? Are you the person that when someone's going through a hard time, you add some fuel to it? You laugh. You make them feel worse. Or are you the person, like my man said in the back, you lend a hand, you pull them up? Which one are you? Which one do you want to be? What do you want it said when you step into the atmosphere? When people know you're coming, what do you want people to speak about you? How do you want them to view you? Oh, I love when, what's your name? Gio. I love when Gio comes into the space. Every time he comes into the space, oh my gosh, I just feel great. What do you want people to say about you? It comes down to who you are. Who you are. When we went through, and we're still kind of going through it, keep me on time. When we went through, and like I said, we're still going through it, what happened with, let me back up 2 steps and finish the story. It wouldn't be till I got to high school and I started competing in volleyball. All my teammates were white. Basketball, all my teammates would be white. Track, a little bit more diversity. And I started to have to talk to people and be teammate and be that person to pick people up and them extend that to me, give me that same grace. My pattern started to shift. It wouldn't truly change until I got to college, though. So I would finish my middle school years, I would go through my high school years, and I would remember that encounter with that police officer. I never went back to where that house was. I still know where it is, but I've never gone back to that street, right? Because of that experience, because of that trauma, right? And I'm so glad to hear that you, as a community, believe in your school. Believe that your school is a place where you come on a day-to-day basis and you feel, I can be me. But you also heard some folks talk about the struggle. So when we ask the question, is there a serious problem? What makes a problem serious? If one person is experiencing something bad, is it serious? Do we all say, okay, we're gonna huddle around this person to make sure they're good? Because we don't want anybody to feel that way? Or do we be like, that's just one person. The 99% of us is good. So we're gonna keep rolling with that. I would say we go after the one. I would say we go after the one. What do you want your culture to be? Here's the other thing. Here's the last thing. Words. There are certain words that have been used against marginalized groups. Marginalized groups is a smaller group of people. To dehumanize them, to belittle them. Belittle means kind of take away their person, their agency, their value. They're words that we use in certain spaces that are not conducive to the community as a whole. So for whatever reason, people think that all black people, is your hand up? Oh, you want to ask a question? My bad.
I just wanted to say something after you finished. Before
Remember it, make sure you remember it.
Yeah.
Okay. There's a thought that a lot of people hold that they think is true, that all black people like to use the N-word. People think that for some reason. That is absolutely a lie. That is absolutely not true. Matter of fact, it is very offensive. It's very offensive to many people, regardless of racial identity. And here's the reason why. When I mentioned Emmett Till, and you didn't know who he was, Emmett Till is the reason why the civil rights movement started. Because Emmett Till died and was killed, he was killed. Because he was killed in the fashion he was, they didn't use his name. All he was an N-word. And so they decided to kill him. That's all he was. And so when people use and they think that, oh, that's my whatever, and it's a term of endearment, it's not. It's really not. Hear me. Remember me standing here. It's not. And so when I say it, when it is said, and somebody in your community comes up and says, hey, my friend, we're not going to talk like that here, on the court, on the field, in the hallway, in the cafeteria. It is my character and who I am as that person as the next words that come out of my mouth, which are either, okay, I understand, or it's a rebuttal in saying why I should be able to use the word. That speaks to my character. I can't, and nobody can tell us or say what we say at home and what we do in our personal, but this is your community. Everybody's here. And if we're trying to be inclusive of everybody, then there are certain things and ways in which we move as a community that's just the way it is. When you go home, that's different. Whether it is or isn't, I'm not saying it is or it isn't. I'm just saying, do not believe people when they think that in the black community, Afro-American community, Afro-American community, however you choose to identify it, that we love hearing that word because we know what it means. We know the cost. We know that it's a word that dehumanizes belittles and takes away your person. So I know you might hear it in music and stuff. I can't speak to their experience or what they say their experience is. I'm not speaking against that. What I am saying is, anytime someone says they're not comfortable, I gotta respect that. Because we're a community of wildcats. Is that fair? Is that fair? Yes. Right. I'm going to show you this video. So I'm going to leave you with two things. I'm going to get ready to show you this video, and then I'm going to leave you with some words. And hopefully, as you continue to move forward in your school life, and you move on to high school, you'll remember the experiences that you have now. And so, because I was a track athlete, I kind of still look at life and the struggles that we may have in life through the lens of track and field, because I believe it applies. So you're gonna watch this video, and what I want you to do is tell me at the end if you believe this gentleman was successful. If you think that he was successful. Y'all see? Never back down, never give up. Yeah. Was he successful? Yeah. Think he was? Why do you think he was successful? She said, even though he was in agony and in pain, he still finished the race. Whether he was first, and he was supposed to win that race, he was favored to win that race. And so whether he was first or last, he finished the race. And so I want to say to you that you are going to run a race, whether you realize it now or you realize it later. You are running a race. And life is definitely going to show and throw some curveballs at you, and there's going to be some things that are going to happen that sometimes you might get a little bit injured. Keep going. And if you saw, his father came on the scene. Somebody, hopefully, when those moments and times that you feel like you potentially want to give up, you'll be able to lean on their shoulder. And so I want to leave you with this poem. Her name is Amanda Gorman, and she is the youngest poet to speak at the inauguration, which is when the president gets inaugurated into office. And she was the first young black poet to actually be asked to speak at the inauguration. So I'm going to leave you with a few of her words, and I'm going to invite your principal to come back and address you. But she wrote, "From the hill we climb," right? She said, "When the day comes, we ask ourselves, where can we find light? In this never-ending shade, the loss we carry, a sea we must wade. We've braved the belly of the beast. We've learned that quiet isn't always peace. And the norms and notions of what just isn't always justice. And yet the dawn is ours before we knew it. Somehow we do it. Somehow we've weathered and witnessed a nation that isn't broken, but simply unfinished. And yes, we are far from polished, far from pristine. But this doesn't mean we're striving to form a union that is perfect. We are striving to forge our union with purpose. Have purpose. Figure out what your purpose is. I thank you for being so kind to me today. Thank you for just listening to the words that I have to say. Good luck to you all. Thank you.
You can stand here, come on.
Alright, so before I say anything, I want you to raise your hand if you're a Christian here. Just before I say anything. Raise your hand, don't worry. Okay. So, for all of you, really. In the Gospel of Matthew, Jesus says on the Sermon on the Mount, love your enemies. Be good to those who hurt you. Pray for those who persecute you. It is important to forgive. It's for your own heart and theirs. The praying part is just praying for them so they can change, so they can find Christ. And to help them to become better.
And I know that everybody doesn't necessarily believe in different things, but I appreciate him bringing forth the fact of forgiveness. We all can take something from that. Forgive, right? Forgiving people. Thank you.
Thank you.